Oh, hello! Ignore all of the chaos behind me. One day I will have a clean home. I've really just been rolling through all of the different topics that I have before I get into my whiteboard topics, which are when I bring out my whiteboard, because I think that there needs to be more of a visual aid, but I just haven't totally figured out how the heck I'm going to do that. So these are all of my non-whiteboard topics, essentially. Honestly, I'm getting close to the end of them, so I'm actually surprised I haven't talked about this more or at least earlier, because this is a really, really interesting topic, and I feel like it's also very relevant for social media, so perfect. So the topic is censorship and control. Now, obviously, I am talking about this from a person who is living in the United States. Obviously, we have freedom of speech. It is not the same in other places. So this is more so me talking about my experience as well as other people's experiences in the United States. And this may be more relevant for them in terms of what to do next, action items, next steps types of things. This is not going to be advice for other people, I guess you could say. I want to talk about this because I feel like it's a very sad situation, right? I personally feel like as individuals, we inevitably enforce censorship and control on each other, even though the government is not doing it for us. And, I feel like some people may kind of look down on other places and be like, wow, that's really not right. That's a human ethics violation. But we've somehow picked up the slack and we're doing it ourselves. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I think that this topic kind of grew from social media, and in particular negative social media comments. If you spent any time on TikTok, now it's a little bit better, but just kind of in the past when it was just such a horrible negative place to be, you did not want to be there. I started to intellectualize what effect this was having on people and kind of what was going on. So say, for example, someone leaves a critical, negative comment on another person's video, and I don't know, I feel like this can kind of span the gamut. It's one thing to be critical of another person's work, but it's another thing to take it to a really, really unnecessarily negative place, or to comment on something which is totally irrelevant to the topic at hand. So for example, are you commenting on someone's appearance, things that they don't really have, I don't want to say control over, but just something that you shouldn't be doing. I think, generally we can all kind of align on that. So I started to observe that this was happening, and then there were some creators which were kind of speaking out on it. I genuinely feel like people, and there were people talking about this, that they were getting anxiety, they had depression because of how critical the landscape was, how mean the landscape was, how rude it was, how irrelevant it was. And I also firsthand experienced some things like that as well. It's definitely a lot better, and I don't know if that's, because the algorithm is better or because TikTok has been kind of cracking down on a lot of these things. I actually know that that's the case based on, the feedback that they've shared with the community, TikTok themselves. But regardless, that's just kind of the starting point to this topic. What effect is negative language, negative comments, thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are directed at other people having on these other people? And is it censorship and control? My opinion is yes. So when you project out this negativity, which is certainly starting from inside of yourself, right? Everything starts from within. So if you have an insecurity, if you have a block or a wall, if you have unresolved negative energy from negative past experiences, negative trauma, and that is just kind of residing in your energetic body. And by the way, I've done a couple of videos on how to transmute negative energy, so if this is something that you're interested in doing, please feel free to check out those videos. It can be really helpful. Anyway, when you are projecting this negativity out and it is landing on someone else, first of all, not really a great thing to do karmically. You don't want to do this. You want to gain control of your own self so that you're not spreading out this negativity. That, in my opinion, is how karma really starts. Negative karma, that's how it accumulates. So you really, really don't want to be doing that. I think that a lot of people are in this victimhood mentality where, and it's understandable, right? You've had really bad experiences happen to you. Life is unfair. Why you? Other people, whether or not you're consciously aware of it, should suffer in the same way. Or you just are so confused that you just don't know what to do with it. So, I'm not saying that these things are a victimless crime, right? They are. There's a lot of undue burden that people have had to experience, and that's terrible. That's pain, that's suffering. That's not what anybody wants. But unfortunately, it is somewhat of a reality of life until we get to a much more evolved space or state where we don't have to deal with these things. But this is just like the reality for the time being. Anyway, all right. So you're, projecting out this negativity onto other people, and thoroughly you are creating a very similar experience which happened to you. And I think that a lot of people have this like cognitive dissonance, right? They're just like, well, what happened to me was like much worse. It was a much different situation. This is just kind of like an innocent comment. And it's like, that is the mindset of anyone and everyone doing bad and doing negative things. There just can't be excuses for how negative it is, right? Or how it will or won't affect other people. There's just no way you can confirm or make it a reality that something will not hurt or harm somebody else. That's just not how things work. You would never want that to be the case for you, right? So, yeah. Inevitably, of course, these words, whatever it is, these actions harm other people. And when we talk about censorship and control, a lot of times, even if it's not, a thought or an idea, people are showing up as themselves, their authentic selves. And when their authentic self is being criticized, judged by other people are enforcing censorship and control, even if it's not the intention. Sometimes it is the intention, right? Sometimes people are just like, God, these people are so annoying. Like, I don't want them to have a platform. I don't want them to exist. Congratulations. You are enforcing censorship and control. Like, that is the unintended side effect of this situation. But if you just want people to kind of like modify themselves, I guess, and not like, just disappear off the face of the planet, that's still kind of just as bad, right? Like, why are you telling somebody how they can and will show up and how to live their life? Obviously, all of these themes have, all of these things have particular themes, right? So like if you are attacking somebody for a very specific reason, it means that you have an insecurity, a problem, a warped perception, old negative energy, whatever it may be, typically with that particular theme. So as a quick example, if you are criticizing someone for their appearance, absolutely you have some type of an issue with your own appearance. And it can be literally anything. If someone is sharing their authentic experiences and their feelings about that, maybe their own particular story, I don't feel like that gets as much criticism. But if someone is having a problem with that, they're likely rejecting and repressing their own, authenticity and their own stories. So unfortunately, it just ends up being a vicious cycle. And when you are, and I'm not saying you're doing it, not you, but like, I'm not saying people are doing it out of evil and malice. It's just that they're unaware, but it doesn't really matter that they're unaware because it still has the same effect. You know what I mean? Like, you can't excuse it in any way, shape, or form. If you're in pain, you're going to project it onto someone else. And what ultimately ends up happening sometimes is that if the creator, for example, receives so much backlash, hate, negativity, and criticism, they may stop what they're doing. This is where the censorship and control happens, right? Because other people are dictating indirectly how other people show up and live their lives. Just because we don't have a higher power which is telling us what to say and what to do doesn't mean that we are not doing it to each other, unintentionally or indirectly. We do, and it happens. And you just have no idea what your one comment can do in terms of a butterfly effect. If you could say something negative about someone to someone which puts them in a position where they just decide not to share, is that like maybe an unlikely scenario that it's just like one comment that does it? Depends. If it's like particularly abusive or particularly threatening, they can definitely make that decision. I mean, it happens all the time, even to kind of like the most like perfect people, and it's really sad to see, honestly. And maybe that person is on a journey that they're share, whatever they're sharing, whether that's, information, stories, whatever, it's likely that their arc is intended to heal other people, because that's typically what sharing communication in some way, shape, or form is like loosely tied into. And you're saying, no, you're not going to do that. I don't want to be healed. You're not going to heal other people. I don't want to be healed. No one's going to heal, basically. And I know, again, no one really thinks about this, but, well, not no one, but a lot of times people who are doing this don't really think about this, but yeah, it ends up being true. And I think that we're not talking about this in the right way, right? We're just like, don't spread hate, don't bully. And it's like, the bullying is a side effect. It's not the cause. It's like a symptom of the root cause. And I think because of that, we're not getting anywhere, because we're not addressing what people need to be doing to heal. And it's just never, it's just going to like shift and change, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're someone who is bullying other people in middle school, you may do that in high school, and then like as an adult, this could transform. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like every age group has its own abusive, negative projection experiences. You turn into a young adult, maybe you're leaving negative comments on like other, or like just criticizing. Maybe it's not even to them. Maybe it's just like out into the world. And maybe as an older adult, you criticize your children. You, make a scene at a Starbucks. Like, it just shifts and changes. It never goes away until you address it, because if it still exists inside of you, you can only perpetuate it or heal and resolve it. There's no other option. Like, yeah, you can reject and repress it for like a while, but you know what I mean? It's like, if I'm looking at my houseplant here, if I reject and repress this houseplant, it's not like it's never going to exist unless I do something with it. So I think that, to sum up this situation, yes, we're, aware that censorship and control can come from individuals. You can be unintentionally perpetuating it, but I really just want to, hit it home that this is really like a healing journey that people need to be on if they want to stop doing this, if they want to stop projecting this negativity. And I think everyone in some way, shape, or form is inhabiting old negative stagnant energy, even if it's not to the extent where they are kind of like attacking other people. It can very much focus inward, and you can kind of attack yourself and self-sabotage yourself. And not saying that's worse or better, but that's really detrimental as well, So transmission of negative energy is really the answer here. And like I said, you can find this information available on my channels, and I think I have an article about it. And it's just something to keep in mind. And you can, even if you haven't intellectualized what your, certain situations or problems are, you can still start the journey through intention setting to kind of understand what it is, start the process, even if you don't totally understand what it is, just, you have your guides help you move forward in the right direction of intuitive alignment and intuitive healing. And you can get started on this journey regardless, because the one thing that you don't want to do is assume, sounds so aggressive, assume everything is fine. I mean, like, I know that maybe I'm saying to people that they should just kind of like lose their sense of peace, but it's really, really hard to get out of our own egos, and we could be unintentionally inhabiting and just like, cycling through bouts of negative energy, unnecessarily causing us pain and suffering. Yeah, this does sound aggressive. And you just don't want to do that. You want to, I guess assume the worst in this situation. I don't know, maybe this is bad advice, but when people neglect things for a little bit too long, they tend to manifest. And also, you just don't really have any other idea of how to be if you can't get out of your own perception value. So that's my advice at the end of the day. And there's no invitation to spread love and positivity. And just, I know I've spent this entire video talking about the ramifications of negative, but there are certainly much better ramifications or side effects of positive and love. And back to that comment, not even that you need an invitation. No one's ever going to tell you to do that. So I'm telling you to do that. And I think everyone can improve in these areas, right? Because when you're in a place of scarcity because you don't feel love for yourself, or maybe you've never even felt it from other people, it's kind of like maybe you don't even understand it, but you can also ask why, what the purpose would be. But it 100% only and takes individual action to change energies and change the collective and change yourself. And the more we take on this self-responsibility as individuals, the better we'll be, the better the world will be. So good luck and get out there. Yay!